Okay, we are live and back again for another update from Brandon Fancher of the Clarion Team. I'm your host, Lovejoy. Secretly, we're Brandon and Brandon, but try to keep that on the DL. Mr. Fancher.
Members of the Brandon community.
Yep, members of the Brandon community.
Yeah.
Nice. Sorry if I faked anyone out this morning. I was a victim of a time delay, at least in my brain, and I got here a little early. So here we are, long last.
It's good to be.
How you doing? Yeah, how you doing?
Well. Yeah, doing good, man. Doing really well. Can't complain. We're having fun and taking names. It's better than the alternative, I guess.
Yep.
How are you?
Good. I'm upright. I'm taking nourishment in the form of some nice, robust Yunnan black tea this morning.
Nice. I've got my Ethiopia roast here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Just because you're drinking coffee and I'm drinking tea doesn't mean we can't be civil towards one another.
We are, yeah, no. The bonds that link us are stronger than the great divide that
the beverages.
Yes.
Beverages that divide us. I can enjoy some coffee now and then, and I'm sure you can enjoy tea. So we're all good.
Yeah, I do.
We don't need to be tea maxis or coffee maxis.
We both have our ritual, though. That's the thing. We were talking about that earlier. You've got your whole tea set up. I've got my pour over set up, and we brew with intent.
There you go. That's what unites us.
That's what
we brew with intent. I like it. So you've also been, I'm sure, coding with intent. How's that?
Indeed.
How's that going lately?
It's going great. Yeah, we're still, as we'll talk about, we're still in the phase of, we've distilled and assessed a lot of the feedback from the election, and we are rolling that into the roadmap that we are in the process of working on and finalizing, and yeah, it's really good. But at the same time, we're refactoring. We are reworking some of the technology that underpins EdenOS, and I'm really excited about all of that because it's really supercharging our dev experience. It's giving us a much faster, or how would you say it? Giving us a much stronger foundation so that we can go faster with less risk as we move into this next phase of building. So, yeah, we're having fun.
Faster with less risk. I like it. Sounds like there's some spacecraft analogy there, but I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, it's a good time of consolidation for us on the tech front.
Cool, which is always kind of a little sleepy in terms of updates because it's a lot of unglorious behind the scenes. We've been talking a lot about refactoring on a few other calls. I know John was working in Violet Garden, and Aaron of Gray Mass sharing some funny analogies about refactoring.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it means fewer announcements when it comes to new functionality. Although we do have some up our sleeve. Because as we refactor, it also opens up new opportunities for things we've been wanting to improve here and there. But yeah, for the most part, right, a lot of work is happening, but it's under the hood. It's behind the scenes, and that's healthy. It's like everything in life. You inhale, and then you exhale. You converge, and then you diverge. You build features, and you get them out fast, and then you consolidate and you strengthen the foundations in preparation for that new time of features. You wake and you sleep. You wax and you wane. there's day and there's night. And so we have to get philosophical on these calls, right?
Yeah,
But no, it's true. And I think that's healthy, super healthy, in fact.
totally. I'm with you 100%. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, we could just keep talking about that whole concept philosophically for the rest of the hour if you want, but I don't know. Maybe you have some things you want to share in
Yeah,
this.
totally. We've got a slide deck as usual. As usual, it will look as usual too. But there are some things in here that we'll talk about. So
Is that Clarion blue? What is that?
that is actually it's called Clarion. No,
Periwinkle.
we're not that polished with the brand yet. So guys, if you're new here, right, we do this we have done this every 2 weeks, and we should talk about that too, Brandon, after this update. What's next for these calls? But every 2 weeks, show off progress, discuss what we're working on next, talk about updates to the roadmap, and of course, answer any questions that you may have. The disclaimer here is that, as with any projections, we know in part and we see in part, right? That's all they are, projections, right? We give our best estimate as to what we'll be working on into the future. Obviously, though, the reality on the ground in terms of what we're building and the feedback we're getting from it and the needs of the community, right? Those inform our priorities. Those change our priorities. Those impact our roadmap. And that's the way it should be. So as we project into the future, guys, just realize that it's subject to change. If you're new to this, resources, go check out EdenOnEOS.com. Also, we do have a public Eden wiki where you can learn more at wiki.eoscommunity.org. And our GitHub. Everything that we're doing is open source. Everything is out in the open. Our communications on the Eden Dev channel and Telegram are all out in the open. So if you want to learn more when it comes to the day-to-day and what we're doing, go check those resources out. If you're a dev, GitHub is where you'll really jive there. And look, it's an open source project. If you're a dev and you want to, this idea excites you and you want to be a part of it and you want to contribute, come on in. Take a look at our backlog. Reach out to us and say, hey, can I work on this? And open up a PR and we'll get that stuff merged in. We welcome contributions from the community and we'd like to see more of that. Roadmap. So, as I always say, this looks familiar. We've formed the community. We've held our first on-chain official elections, and funding has been distributed to our elected delegates. And we are still now in that phase of retrospection, groundwork, polishing of the roadmap, etc. And it's really been going well. Really excited about this phase. As we were discussing, right, we're working a lot under the hood. That means not as much in terms of new features, but do know that, guys, we are setting the groundation, the groundwork and the foundation for a new rocket launch here into the features that are next. So V03, enhanced elections and accounting. We're looking at tighter Zoom integration. We'll get into that more, etc. So yeah, I'm not going to go through this slide too much. This is what we delivered on August 9th. And of course, it was a great success. Super excited about that. But what we're doing now is this, retrospection and groundwork. So we're gathering, distilling election feedback, what worked well, what didn't work well, what should we improve and when, ensuring our election code is maintainable, adequately tested, evaluating refactors and new technologies that we've been eyeing, implementing some of that actually, easing resource issues and signing. I should take the question mark off of that because we're actually doing some of that, which is neat. And roadmap work. I did work on these slides a little bit, so just point by point here. We already talked about how we extended the election video upload window. We are still prioritizing. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot, sorry. We are also working on replacing, so this third point here, replacing complex RPC queries with queries to our local client-side microchain service. And this is doing wonders for the simplification of our front-end code base. And we're already seeing the fruits of that. So we released a new interface for the members listing on the community page, and that's super fast and snappy, and that made it really easy for us to implement member search. You can infinite scroll through that list really quickly, and we're going to see those sorts of performance gains and feature XP unlocking in other parts of the application. So I'm excited about that. We are adding more end-to-end tests, and that is being empowered by our new CI/CD setup with the ability to stand up fresh, ephemeral chains to better facilitate and control testing. So to talk about that more, to expound on that a little bit, okay? We had been working for a long time against a set of test contracts deployed on the WAX testnet, because it just so happened that the WAX testnet gave us the right kind of combination of contracts and configuration and all of that to be able to do our testing. But that gets really difficult because if everybody's working in the same test contract, you start stepping on each other's feet. If you want to set up a test election, you've got to tear everything down, redeploy the contracts, walk through inducting a new slate of members. And I mean, you know, every election test just set up and tear down can take an hour, right, of your time. And that's a lot. And then you multiply that by, you know, 4 or 5 test contracts. We had one test contract out there in the WAX testnet that was just for CI/CD. And when more than one test runs at the same time, the tests start stepping on each other's feet. And so we really needed a better way of doing this. And what we came out with was using the CL tester framework that Todd Fleming has been talking about for a while. It was one of the first kind of dev-related products that we, as the Clarion team, put out there. We're using that to spin up really quickly a local chain. We can time travel in that local chain. We can set it up in any configuration that we want, and then we can run unit tests super fast, end-to-end tests actually, super fast on those chains. So we can spin up a chain in a certain state, then run the chain from there, do our manual tests as we dev, and then tear it down and set it back up in just a couple of minutes. It's really impressive. And that is one of the things that's going to return huge dividends, a huge yield for us in our dev experience and in our testing experience. So that gives us, you know, whenever I said less risk, these are some of the things that, you know, make us go faster with less risk. And, you know, I think that we'll likely write our articles about this. We may have other sort of dev-facing features or libraries that we release around this pattern. Obviously, we want to use it for a little while and see how it works. But yeah, I'm super excited. Yeah, and that makes all of our end-to-end tests work really nicely too.
Awesome. Faster, less dangerous.
Yeah,
sounds great.
Faster, less dangerous. The microchain stuff. So replacing the complex RPC queries. That's based on another piece of work that Todd has pioneered, where basically we have a server that's listening to a diffuse fire hose of blocks, and we have that filtered down to blocks that contain transactions that contain actions that are important to us, right, related to the Eden contract, or maybe to the NFTs that are a part of our Eden NFTs, etc. And we distill state from that. And when you start EdenOS up in your browser, all the state related to that is piped into your browser in WASM, and it's all available there. And then we can do GraphQL queries from our browser, from the JavaScript side of things, into the WASM state, and instantaneously get out the information that we're asking for, which makes for a very snappy experience. This is something that, again, I would call it a beta product. We're using it now in Eden in production, and it's working nicely. But how well does it scale? If you have a DeFi platform pumping all of that state into the browser, into a user's browser, might not be the best thing. But if you have an app like EdenOS, or if you can subchain the microchain or microchain the subchains, right? This might work. So yeah, we're still playing with all this technology. As you can tell, it's very new. I don't even really know, it's so new, how to talk about it adequately. But it's making our work a lot easier and simplifying a lot of our code at various levels of our stack. So again, super excited about that.
I'm still laughing at microchain the subchain or subchain the microchain. Whatever it takes, man. Whatever it takes.
You got to sub the microchain sometimes.
Yeah. Putting that on a t-shirt.
Yeah, really. Yeah. Now we are doing some other cool things. Okay, and so we have I added server pays and contract keys to the end of this slide. We're big fans of Anchor, big fans of the experience that the GrayMass team has created for dApps across the board. And we believe that they're going to continue to be critical to the ecosystem. It's amazing, that technology and what it's enabled. And in fact, right, to call out our chief delegate, Aaron Cox, our head chief, he increased the fuel limits for transactions related to Eden to make the experience all the more better for our Eden members. And so we're really grateful there. We're experimenting though with, well, one pain point, right, with that is like in the voting process, every time you go vote, or, there are other times this holds true too. Every time you go vote, you dump out to Anchor. You've got to find the Anchor window and then sign, right, in Anchor and wait for it to update in the browser. And that really works quite nicely, but it can introduce a little bit of friction. That friction compounds in like a social type experience where you want to like a post and you want that like to be logged on the blockchain. And there are various ways to address that, but imagine if you're on Twitter and every time you wanted to like, you had to go sign in an authenticator and come back. And so server pays and contract keys are two pieces of technology that enable us to let you authenticate with Anchor when you initially sign in, and then subsequently only for the higher risk transactions. So if you want to withdraw funds as a delegate from the Eden ecosystem, you're probably going to be asked to sign in Anchor. But if you want to do something like vote or update your opt-in status in an election, or sign for witness for a new member, something like that, you can do that in the browser instantaneously, and the browser can sign under the hood. And so kind of going a level lower here, what that means is we've got a server set up that can pay for the RAM, CPU, net fees of those transactions on behalf of the user. And then in our contract, what we do is we we store keys that are set up in your browser, in the contract, the public keys, the private keys in the browser, and the contract can actually validate the transactions according to the keys signed in the browser without us having to do an update auth or link auths on your EOS account and update your EOS account permissions. So it's a way for us to create session-based keys in browser, securely stored in browser, that have a very limited scope, but not have to send you out to a third-party authenticator and show you a big warning. Hey, this is going to reconfigure your EOS.io account permissions. You know, caution, 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 because those authenticators rightfully they cry bloody murder if any contract out there, any application is going to try to propose a transaction that rekeys your account, right? This is a very dangerous transaction. And so this is a safe way to do that in a way that doesn't discourage the user from actually adding these narrowly scoped keys. So again, experimental. We think this is going to pay dividends on the experience, and it only really, I think, reinforces the idea of like Anchor and others being authenticators, right? Being reserved for protecting those high value transactions and for signing you in, authenticating, things like that. So does that make sense? Did I explain that well enough?
It's working for me.
Cool.
But we've been doing this a lot, and I might not be the best test audience at this point.
Yeah. Well, audience, if you have questions about that, chime in. But
yeah,
yeah, this has been one that I think every app has struggled with. Every DApp, I should say, has struggled with, is dumping out to third-party authenticators for every little action. And we're hoping this can help. There's actually another level to this where you can do contract pays and set it up so that you don't have to have a server paying for the transactions. You can do this serverless with the contract paying for all the costs of the transactions. And that's something we'll be talking about more. I know that Todd has been talking about that in the various EOS dev channels with some of the block producers. It does require an update, a non-hard fork, I think a non-forking update at all to the block producers software that they're running. But it's something that would be cool to see, more generally in Eden moving forward. So
we got one question from Dave Adams asking, what about taking Ethereum state and making a copy of most legit projects that have network effect on ETH and scale them on EOS? Like Uniswap could scale on EOS and bring users, but no one knows Nudex.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I've resisted playing in the ERC20, DeFi ecosystem for a while. I always felt dirty getting into and all of that. And of course, you start moving things around and gas fees are crazy. And you can tell the technology is so inferior to like if the world could just see what we have with EOS and this technology, I think the light bulb would go off. And I think they will see, right? But as of late, I've been playing around there, really the last week, just to see DeFi and broaden my horizons and all this world of possibilities, and playing on some of the other chains like Matic and BSC and Avalanche, etc. And my eyes have really been opened to a lot of possibilities. And I've been having the same thought, right? This whole last weekend, I thought about it. We could totally port some of these projects over to EOS. And I think everything changes, right? Yeah, and maybe there are even DeFi sorts of aspects that we can introduce to the Eden experience and fractal governance. So yeah, these are, I don't know, it's an interesting first question from the audience because I've been thinking about these very same things. I think it's honestly a question though that is not just for Eden but for the whole EOS ecosystem. For those of you in EOS listening, guys, there's a lot of opportunity out there, and not just opportunity for those who build these types of solutions on EOS, but opportunity for everybody in EOS and the world, I think. So yeah, build it, do it.
Scale it.
I have that Daft Punk song stuck in my head now.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're.
Hotter, better, faster, stronger.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to Daft Punk, you should do it. If you guys look in Eden, my EOS account name is Doing It Right. That's a Daft Punk song. Doing it right. Everybody will be dancing if you're doing it right. It's a good song. Daft Punk fan.
Well, make sure you get that on your playlist for the first Eden dance party, which has got to happen sooner or later. I always wanted to have a party where everyone has an entrance song. That could be yours.
That would be a good party.
Yeah.
I like it.
Little stage with a microphone, and then you just come in from behind the curtains, but the DJ like knows who's coming, and they spin up the song that you've RSVP'd.
For those of you in the metaverse, have a metaverse party.
All right, metaverse party it is.
Cool.
Yeah, how far are you guys on the Clarion metaverse?
Clarion metaverse. Yeah, no, it's done. We're just waiting to ship. No. Yeah. We don't have a big team, guys.
You built it in the future, and you just haven't figured out how to ship it back to the past yet.
Yeah, no, that's true. Although with the time travel capabilities of these ephemeral chains, we're getting closer, I think.
Yeah.
No, that's really cool. The ephemeral chains are so cool, guys. I'm serious, because you can tell it to go forward in time, and you're not manipulating any state. It's as if the chain just fast forwarded through time or backed up. I mean, yeah. If any of you know React, back in the React.js, back in the days when Dan Abramov came out with React Redux and he showed off the time travel capabilities, the ephemeral chains to me feels like that, but for blockchain development. Few will probably get that reference, but some of you will get it, and Shall we go on?
We shall.
Awesome. So UI enhancements. So I already mentioned, right? Community members, infinite scroll. We have that. We've got member search, better UI for loading profile images. I have a PR that should be merged today, and hopefully we can ship that to production today, if not today, tomorrow, that introduces some UI polish around member profile page. So we're going through a lot of these pages, and we're doing the refactors under the hood onto the microchain to simplify everything. And while we're in there, we're also tackling some of this UI debt that we had that we've been wanting to get to for a while. So we've polished that member profile page, and also have a PR ready for more withdrawal options. So right now, as a delegate, when you want to take out your funds, you basically withdraw everything to your EOS account, and specifically the EOS account that is tied to your Eden profile, right? You don't really have any choice otherwise. What we're doing now in the UI with this, which again should be coming out today or tomorrow, you can specify what EOS account you want the funds to go to, and the amount that you want to transfer. And the way that works under the hood is it will withdraw, this is going to probably be a little confusing, but it'll withdraw all the delegate funds that are available to you to your own personal Eden ledger inside the Eden contract. And then it will do a withdrawal action from that balance for the amount you specify to your EOS account. And in the same block, then, if you're sending the funds to a third-party EOS account, do a transfer from your EOS account to the target or the destination EOS account. And so we get the kind of the security benefits of ensuring that all withdrawals from Eden only go to your EOS account, right? That's enforced by the contract. But the benefits of it's like your EOS account is just a pass-through account. It happens in the same block, so there's no price difference. There's no capital. I'm not a tax professional, so please don't take this as tax advice. But you don't incur like a gain or a loss on the EOS that passed through your account and have to report that, etc. So hopefully this addresses some of the concerns that some of the delegates have had about the tax consequences of taking and holding those funds in your own EOS account, however long they're in there, and the various knock-on effects that might have financially and regulatorily, something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah. So again, in summary, what do you get out of it? You get to specify a withdrawal to account, and you can withdraw partial amounts.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited about that, even though we had a manual workaround to do that same thing. But for somebody like me, I'm gonna want to click a button in the Eden members page and just make it happen, and not have to go to blocks and
totally
do all the things. So
totally, yeah,
that's awesome.
The ability to do this has been in the contract since we came out with these contracts, but yeah, the UI just hasn't facilitated that. So now it will.
Cool.
So what's on the horizon? Okay, it looks like we're going to prioritize, Eden account recovery. So if you have an Eden, if you have an Eden profile and you somehow lose access to your underlying EOS account, maybe you lose your keys or whatever, right? We need to have a mechanism in place for you to be able to recover your Eden profile and assign that or connect that to a new EOS account under the hood. That we can do because of our strong KYC process, right? Everybody who comes into Eden is KYC'd. You're on video. You have your profiles. So we can easily authenticate you by doing a similar ceremony. And if we can authenticate you, then our smart contract should be able to reassign the profile to a different EOS account. So that'll be a priority coming up. Other things, right? Again, election improvements, enhanced Zoom integration. We had a really, I think, for a decentralized DApp, a really good election experience last time, but I think we can really take that to the next level. So we are still assessing the extent to which we want to integrate with Zoom. That'll be coming up. Guys, we know there's the desire out there to be able to spin up new communities, especially for different languages, and so that's something we're looking at. Yeah, Ola Art, any Chinese community in the works, and I know that the Chinese community has been reviewing the Eden contracts and looking at how they can set that up. I'd love an update from them as to how that's going. I don't know how far they are along with that. But optimally, right, we will have a UI that enables you just to fill out the form and boom, fire up a new community. That's what we want. And so we are going to be giving that a priority. We'll see where exactly in the priority level that falls. But guys, when we hear people asking for it, that has an impact on how we prioritize things. So if this is you and you're just sitting here waiting to stand up a new community, please make noise, and you'll see this filter up even higher in the priority list. Detailed accounting of community, representative, and individual member funds, and more flexibility around the funds. That's coming up. Arbitration, etc.
Here's a random question for you that I just popped into my brain on that detailed accounting portion.
Go for it.
Is there a way to associate accounts, like, you know how like at your bank account you have a checking account, a savings account, and like could members, especially like once you become a delegate, maybe you want to have two different pools of funds, or like be able to like move stuff internally, even if it's not like literally a different account, but maybe like within the, you mentioned something about like that you have your own personal ledger almost within the smart contract.
You'd be amazed at the flexibility that the smart contract affords us as implemented today around the detailed accounting. And that's thanks to the foresight of Stephen Watanabe, Todd Fleming in designing the contract. There are a few ways that we can tackle this, okay? And I think in the UI, and we want to strike the right balance. On the one end, there's the simplest way that we're kind of doing it today, where you get funds, you withdraw all the funds, right? That's one extreme. The other extreme is we can have detailed delegate ledgers per delegation level, per election, per delegate. So under the hood in the contract, there's the Eden Treasury account or ledger. There's your personal Eden account ledger. And there are delegate accounts and ledgers. And a head chief delegate today would have three levels? So they'd have 3 delegate ledger accounts. But it's hard because if we break it up that granularly in the UI, number one, it gets very complicated and difficult to implement. Number two, it gets hard to implement. It gets confusing for the end user if we don't nail it. And so we are in the process of designing this experience, but hold on a second. There we go. In the process of designing this experience, and I think that where we're kind of landing is you've got you as a delegate would have 2 accounts, 2 ledgers, if you will. Your member ledger and your delegate ledger. And the delegate ledger, each transaction will probably be tagged with the delegate level that it came from. And we might have tagging capabilities eventually, more fine-tuned memo. That's something I didn't mention. You can specify a memo on outgoing on your third-party withdrawals now too. That's coming up, okay. But we'll have the ability to add information to some of these transactions, etc. You as a member should have the ability to, as a delegate, should have the ability to transfer funds. Certainly internally, we will have member-to-member transactions internally where the funds stay in the Eden contract, okay? But as a delegate, you'll be able to send funds, I believe, from your delegate ledger directly to other members as well. So it doesn't go to your personal ledger. And so, yeah, a lot of possibilities open up with this. Cool. We just want to strike the right balance between integrity by design and detailed accounting, right? And usability.
Cool. Works for me.
Awesome. No demo. I think I had a demo slide I didn't delete. And yeah, that's it.
Chris was wondering, with the recent move of much of the EOS community to Discord, would it be possible to add that as a field to an Eden member's profile, their Discord handle?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's another thing I didn't have on the slides that we're starting to prioritize as well. We already have it now, a decoupling between the NFT that was minted and the profile. In the beginning, when we set this up, the UI got the information about your profile from the NFT that had been minted. But we're looking at new actions for updating your profile that aren't necessarily tied to your cat.
It's like a pair of cats just...
Oh,
it's
nice.
a cat makeout session going on back there, which could quickly turn into like a fight. You never know. So
never know.
Anyway, that's why I was cracking up and wondering if it was going to turn violent.
That's funny. Yeah, so we are looking at new actions that will allow people to update their profiles. And that's really required before we can add new fields to like Discord to your profile on Eden. It's hard though, right? We've got to get the right checks and balances in place for that. We don't want people getting KYC'd using our process, right? Our good process under one profile and then going and totally updating their profile and changing it drastically to somebody else or whatever without the proper checks and balances. So I would think that we'll have another kind of ceremony or call or some sort of checks and balances where multiple Eden members have to sign off on a pending profile update. Yeah, those are things we're discussing and designing.
Very cool. If anyone else has any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat while we take another sip of our intentful beverages. Mm-hmm. Any other profound thoughts?
Nope. Inhale, exhale.
You know, in the Vedas, there's a term for that point between inhale and exhale, or that point between sunrise and sunset, or the point, between the ocean and the land. And it's a really interesting concept that I keep thinking of when you talk about that. Well, you named them all. You named a whole bunch of them. Yeah.
Really?
It's called Sandhya.
Huh. Okay. Well, whether live or after the call, I want to hear about this point between the two.
Yeah. Yeah. Just look for those. Look for those in your life. They're really interesting.
I like that. Yeah, that's really good. I feel like I've been kind of at that point. It seems like with the development phase of this, right? Because last week I felt like I was between two worlds. We had converged for a while and now we're kind of diverging again. And I learned so much in that space because I allowed myself to explore it. And yeah, that's interesting. I do have another thought though. The Twilight Zone. It's true.
Hopefully not quite that.
Yeah. I do have another thought though, Lovejoy, and that's just that I am thoroughly grateful to you for hosting these calls every week. With Mike and myself, and the service. It's been a huge service to the, I think, hopefully these calls have been valuable for our audience, but it's been a huge service to the Eden community and the EOS community. And so thank you for all of that. I know this is our last update with Lovejoy, and we don't currently have anything, have a plan for next week as far as I know. So, we may be exploring that with the community and finding out what is our new pace, our new rhythm with updates like this. now that Lovejoy isn't going to be hosting them. But thank you. Thank you.
It's been a pleasure, for sure. It's been really good to, good to talk to you guys every week. It's been my chronometer, sort of like in the background of all this. And yeah, I'll leave it to the Clarion team. I didn't want to, like, I know I'm not going to be able to continue doing it, but if you guys want to get somebody to jump in and continue on, more power to you. That'd be cool. And but maybe you want to change the pace. Maybe. Hold on a second.
There it goes. Got to have a little entertainment. And what's better than cats on the internet? I love this. You're muted still.
I said cat fights on the internet, I guess. There are two Calico sisters, and they go from lovey-dovey to I'm gonna kill you really fast sometimes. And vice versa. It's been a total pleasure, and I'll leave it to you guys and the very capable Eden community to figure out how to keep this sort of process going so that the free flow of information continues in one way, shape, or form. Josh, we did get to that. I don't know if you... Oh, okay. Well, here's one thing from Ola Art. Violet Garden is one dApp that incentivizes users to join Eden. Any other dApp ideas that help more people join Eden?
I imagine there are some out there. Now, I'm not saying I know of any, but with Eden, we have a set of strongly KYC'd users, and we've been talking a lot about how that user base could be, how third parties could integrate with that user base to provide special value to the dApps and to the Eden community. I think that's a question for the community. What are you baking up? What are you working on?
Yeah, I think a lot of the Pomelo projects are going to provide some interesting inroads as well to EOS account creation and onboarding. Joshua says, Lovejoy token to the moon. We'll see. I did create a Lovejoy token on BitShares many, many, many years ago, but I never did anything with it. Josh says he's ready to edit his profile description.
Yeah, we need that.
And Ami says, Ola Art, you gave me an idea. Thanks. So
cool.
There's an example.
Love it. And we know Ami delivers.
Mm-hmm.
He makes it happen.
That's right. He's probably already got it halfway coded just from the idea. Cool. Well, no more questions in the comment section. And unless you've got any other profound thoughts, we should adjourn.
That's it for me. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Thanks again, Lovejoy.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you and Mike for showing up week after week. Very consistent. It was a very consistent run, I'll say. So long may you run. And let's see if I can do this one more time with I think we need to update this, but one more time for good measure. I'll see y'all out there.
Bye, guys.
Take care.